All right, here we are. Short story long with my friend. I consider you a friend now.
Done.
Ryan Holiday. We're in your hotel room in San Diego. You just finished a speaking engagement, a little lunch where you're inspiring people afterwards, and now you have 40 minutes to jam in this podcast before you head off to the airport to go to another speaking engagement.
Yes.
So thank you so much for A, fitting me in, and B, just being like a general inspiration, because that's a pretty insane schedule.
No, that's very cool, man. You're the one that drove all the way down here, so.
Yeah, but I drove all the way. You're flying all around the damn country. It's just cool because I do think, like we were talking about before this, one day I think I could see myself doing speaking and doing stuff like that, but you're on a whole nother level.
Well, it's weird. Like I wanted to be a writer, and that's what my dream was, and I did it, and then it's this unexpected thing where people want you to come talk about what you wrote about. And so that was one weird lesson, is like you think you need one set of skills and then life tells you actually you need this set of skills and this other one. Yeah. But like I think like the highest honor and coolest thing to be able to do is to just have this life where you get to come up with stuff and then you get to share it with people. Yeah. Like we forget that before the internet and before social media, like lots of really smart, creative people were like begging editors or agents or all these people to like give them a chance, and that those people got to be like, nope, sorry, we're full. Yeah. And like
now there's no gatekeepers.
Yeah, we have a lot of freedom, and it's a lot easier to do these things than it used to be. And so that's why it's hard for me to say like this is 5 gigs in 6 days. It was hard for me to say no to any of them because it's like I remember when I would have killed to have a half opportunity or something.
Yeah, it's nuts. Yeah. And also, too, for the listener, I did an interview with Ryan probably close to a year ago. So that tells Ryan's whole story, how he got into writing, how he gets books published, all that. So if you're interested in that stuff, go back and reference that episode. The good thing is today we are talking specifically about his book, Perennial Seller, which I just read and is incredible.
Thank you.
I mean, you write in a way, because I read a lot, and I've been posting a lot about writing, and I feel kind of shitty about it because I look kind of like I'm trying to be smarter than everyone. But you write in a way, for a guy who doesn't actually read, hasn't been reading his whole life, that's very, very digestible, and like it's just the right amount of like real knowledge mixed with being readable.
Well, I think that's part of my job, right?
Yeah.
So if what I would say to people who are like you who haven't read their whole lives, if you feel like reading is hard, it's not you. It's only because you're reading the wrong books. Yeah. And like the writer's job is to take information and give it to you in a way that you can understand. Yeah. And so don't blame yourself. Like when you watch a bad movie, you don't think like I can't watch movies. Yeah. Right? You're like, this movie sucks. I'm not going to watch this anymore. And I think it's totally the same as books. And so I try to tell stories because that's how I learn, and I try to make it as accessible as humanly possible because that's my job.
You also reference like Drake lyrics and Jay-Z, and like it's fucking just cool.
Well, people forget that like there are really no new ideas. Yeah. So like the cool thing Drake is saying, some other person also said 200 years ago, and like I love nerding out about that connection.
It's so good. How do you choose what topic to write about? Like, obviously, I'm sure your brain is just going a million miles a minute when you're not working on a book. And like, how do you decide, you know what, this is what I want to dedicate the next years of my life to?
So not everyone's going to agree with me on this, but I say like you should write about the thing that you can't not write about. Yeah. So this is true for all sorts of things. It's like, don't start an apparel company because you saw someone on the internet start an apparel company. Or don't write a book because you think, like, don't write young adult novels because you think they're selling well, and don't like do this because someone else did it. Do it because you can't not do it. That was really good advice I got. It's that like the reason I'm writing this book is because I have to write this book, and if I don't, I will not like myself and I'll be uncomfortable. It's like because the thing is it's really, really hard. Yeah. Like starting a company is really, really hard. Traveling and being on the road is hard. Recording an album is hard. These things are really hard. So if you're doing them for like egotistical reasons, or you're doing them to get attention, or you're doing them because you think like it's going to help you meet women or something.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, that's and it starts off, it's really exciting, and then you hit what they call the trough of sorrow. Yeah. That's when that's when the initial publicity or attention or anything goes away. Yeah. And now you're just like, oh wait, now it's really, really hard. Yeah. And so you need to have that like, I don't care how hard it is, I'm going to do it. Yeah. Sort of part of you. So that's why the reason, like, it's not that you should be pure because it's like for the sake of purity. It's that actually, if you're not living and breathing this thing and you don't believe in it very deeply, you're not going to be able to get through like the shit that you're going to have to go through.
It's so true, man. That's so true. And I don't put it as well as you because this is what you do, man. You're good at fucking using words. But a lot of people ask me like, hey, what's your best advice for starting a clothing line?
Yeah.
Or what's your best at whatever? And it's always like, even with clothing, obviously I get clothing line a lot because I have a clothing line. So my first advice is always like, what does it mean to you? Like if you're going to set out tomorrow to make the best t-shirts ever made, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
And you're going to get bored of it and it's going to suck.
Yeah.
But like, what does the brand stand for? What's going to actually keep you up in the morning when nothing is selling and you're in debt and you have returns and nobody gives a shit?
Yeah.
Like, what does the brand mean? And it's exactly what you're saying. You just say it really well, but that's with anything.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like, unless you want to go work at Starbucks, like, anytime you want to step out and create something on your own, like, I don't know. People just don't think about, they think about that initial excitement or what the girl's going to think or how rich they're going to be next month. They just don't think about that passion that it takes to get through those dark, dark days.
Well, what I like to is like people are like, oh, I'm thinking about writing a book. What do you think? And I'll say like, you shouldn't write a book. And I try to convince them not to do it. And the thinking being not that they shouldn't, but like if I can convince you not to do it, it's probably a really bad sign.
Yep.
Right? So it's like if I can push you not to do it, or if you can be convinced like, oh, actually books aren't popular right now, make a podcast. Like if you're an opportunist like that, you probably are picking the wrong thing to do.
Yeah.
And so you really want to think then about what your motivations are, what's really at the bottom of this for you. Because again, that's what you're going to need in those sort of dark moments.
Yeah, and also a piece of advice I would give is like almost, if you agree with this, like, what is the bigger message that you're trying to get across? Like, let's say you're not an author, right? What's the bigger message that you're trying to get across? And then what's the best medium to give that? Is it a YouTube? Is it a vlog?
Right.
Is it a, whatever? Is it a podcast? Is it a wheat paste campaign?
Yeah.
It's sort of like, but if you're not clear, if you're just doing a podcast because you see a lot of people are doing podcasts lately, or you're starting a vlog because vloggers are really hot right now, you're just going to get steamrolled.
Well, actually, you want to go where there's not a lot of competition, ideally, right?
Yeah.
So it's like when you started your company, it was harder to start it, so there wasn't as many people doing it. And then by nature of being successful in it, it looks easy. So I think a lot of book ideas, it's not that you shouldn't write a book, it's that that's not a great book idea also, you know? And so you need to have people around you who have done it before. Ideally, this is where mentors really come in. It's like, I was a research assistant for a writer for like 7 years. So for a great writer named Robert Greene. And so I learned how to make books separate from what I wanted to write about.
That's
right?
huge.
So it was like, I understood a lot of the pitfalls and the dangers of like, and just the process of doing it. So then I was able to go like, I have 10 ideas. 5 of them would be horrible books and never work. 5 kind of would work. And then actually let me have on the 11th idea, I finally got something that was really there.
Okay. And here's my goal on this. I don't know the percentage of my listeners that are big readers. But I'm going to guess, not because I'm downplaying my audience, I love you guys, but I'm going to guess that it's not as many as I would hope. So
It never is.
It never is. So my goal is to kind of go through the book how I went through it. And to point out the things that made sense to me and then just sort of explain them a little bit so that people see how much this thing could really help and the sort of some of the theories that are in it.
Okay.
In the first part, let me start with this. What is a perennial seller?
So a perennial seller is not what's on the top of the New York Times bestseller list this week or not what's on the top of the YouTube charts right now. It's something that's going to stand the test of time and last. Like, how old is Young and Reckless now?
8 years.
So that's incredible just in and of itself, right? Most things don't survive out of a year. So it's like, I think a lot of people are like, oh, this is popular right now. Fidget spinners are big. I'm going to do that. You know, you don't want that. What you want is what's the thing, because it's always going to take longer and be harder than you think. And if you're going to do all that work, it should last. So a perennial seller is something that is primed to stand the test of time, and then something that does stand the test of time. Shawshank Redemption, a band like Iron Maiden, Iron
Maiden as compared to Flo Rida.
Yeah, exactly. Not that Flo Rida hasn't sold lots and lots of albums, but are we still going to listen to his songs in 20 years? Probably not, unless we're doing it ironically.
100%. Is it harder? You covered this in the beginning. A lot of people complain that it's harder today than it has ever been in history to create a perennial seller. Do you think that that's true or no?
Well, I would say objectively it's easier in the sense that like lawyers are, you can get a lawyer from LegalZoom and you can write it on a computer and, we have all these tools that collectively make the whole experience easier. And we have the internet that allows you to find your audience easily. Yep. Like if you are making great stuff, it's easier for you to find people than it was before.
Yep.
But there's also, because it's easier for you and I to do what we do, it means there's more of us.
Yeah.
So there is more competition and it is noisier. And so it's not just enough to make great stuff. You also have to understand marketing and platforms and all these other things. So I think it's easier and harder, but I would actually say, like, I know people ask that question and I usually go like, it doesn't fucking matter. No, it doesn't matter if this is the best time to write a book or start a company or the worst time, because what matters is that now is when you're alive and when you have an idea. So like we can get, it's like, it's so hard to do this already. Yeah. Why would you waste precious energy discussing whether you like the weather today or not? Like you have to go out and do this regardless. So I really urge people to not get caught up on whether it's like a golden age of this or whether it's a nightmarish age. What really matters is like, what are you going to do about it, dude? Like what are you going to put in to make the most out of this situation? Because that's really all that's in your control.
That's so true. God damn it. Okay, in the first part, you talk about the creative process, sort of coming up with the idea.
Yeah.
One big thing that I like that you talked about is, what do you think the distribution of importance is between creating the product and the product itself and the marketing of the product?
I don't think there's like a hard and fast ratio, but people almost inevitably get it wrong, right? Mm-hmm. So some people are like, I'm just going to make this perfect thing and then I'll put it online and everyone will love it. Mm-hmm. And they're always sorely disappointed. And then you have the sort of hustler marketer types who are like, I can sell anything. And they're like thinking about the marketing. Meanwhile, their product totally sucks, right? So the way I think about it is it's sort of like 2 consecutive marathons. You have to run this, you have to make this amazing thing that's so good that when people see it, they're going to love it. And when they use it, they're going to recommend it to other people. Yeah. That's buy-in number 1. Yeah. And then how are you going to get those people to hear about it? Because word of mouth is what drives sales at the end of the day, as you know, like all my things, whether I'm wearing the backpack that I own, the teams I like these things because someone was like, dude, you should check this out.
Yeah.
And so if you haven't built that in, it doesn't matter how good you are at marketing. Mm-hmm. And if no one's heard about it, they can't tell it to other people. Yeah. So you got to have both.
What do you think about the importance of, like, if you could, I always say ratio, but like the importance of word of mouth marketing versus like ads?
Word of mouth is everything. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, like, what I say is, like, if your product is dependent on advertising completely, eventually you'll run out of money, you'll get bored, you'll run out of, mm-hmm. like the at the end of the day, you want your thing to be marketing itself while you sleep. Mm-hmm. Like, nothing feels better than hearing that somebody else forced everyone in their life to watch this video or mm-hmm. buy this book or go to this concert. Yeah. Like, that's what drives sales. And ultimately, that's the cheapest form of advertising as well. It doesn't cost anything.
Yeah, that's what makes things viral.
Yeah.
It's all sharing. And what else? I was looking around the room and I'm thinking, how many things in this room were purchased by the 3 of us because of an ad, as compared to how many were purchased because a friend recommended or gave it to us?
It's like literally 100%. Right.
It's interesting. Another huge thing is you talk about, we kind of covered it in that intro, which I love, but is like just preparing for the sacrifice.
Yeah.
And I love that you mentioned the Amazon thing. Which was after a year.
Yeah, so people don't know this. So Amazon and Zappos, they hire you, and you have a 90-day trial period as an employee. And at the end of the 90 days, basically your boss comes to you and says, it's an official program, so you have an opportunity. They'll pay you $5,000 to quit on the spot, like a $5,000 severance if you leave.
Is that every employee?
Yeah, every employee. And the idea is that if you will take the money, you weren't going to be a good long-term employee.
Yeah.
Like, they want someone who's really bought in to what you're doing. And so my that's the same idea. It's like, if I can convince you to quit, or if you can convince someone that it's too hard to start an apparel company, then they weren't going to make it as a designer or an apparel entrepreneur, because other things are going to be way harsher than whatever you're telling them, right? You know, the bank not loaning you money, the store's not carrying your stuff, someone stealing from you. Life is going to knock you on your ass.
Yeah.
And so if you're doing this because you think it's going to be easy and clean and like the road's going to be paved for you, you're going to be sorely disappointed. But so that's the idea. Yeah, it's like if you cannot do this, you shouldn't do it, because it's way, you will be way happier. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's so, the amount of, like, even with this book, which is probably one of the easier books for me to write, it's like the moments when I sat at my computer and I was just like, this is so miserable. This is so hard. Like, why, like, you know, looking at it, coming back from my editor, just covered in red ink, you know? And it's like, this is hard, and I have to do this, and I can't get anyone to do it for me, and it's all on me, and nobody knows how hard it is, and it might not even work at the end of the day. Like, that's the reality of this gig, man. Like, that's the reality of how this is going to work. And so, like, if you're not interested in that, like, run away.
Yeah, it's so true, man.
Do yourself a favor. Like, I'm not trying to keep you away because it's good for me. Like, I'm being nice. You know what I mean? Like, run away as fast as you can, and you will thank me for it.
You put it so well. It's just something that you the way that the perspective that you write about it from is just done so well, where so many people's mentality is like, oh, I have this really good idea, and they run and tell all their friends about this amazing idea they have, and if one person says that idea is shit, it destroys them. And they're done, and they're miserable, and and it's like, it's just the testament to coming up with ideas, going through why, honestly, is there a place in the market for it? What's the plan? What's the budget? What's all this stuff? And then believing it almost to an insane level where almost everyone around you says it's a bad idea, and you keep doing it because you keep learning about it. And you know what I mean? Like that, when I read that, it's a belief that I have, but when I read the way you wrote it, I was like, man, that's cool. Like, that's a cool way to position it.
But see, also, this is like the word of mouth and the importance of the creative process. It's like, it's hard. Like, I had to learn that painfully myself. And then I had to write it down. And then the fact that it resonated with you is why we're talking. You know what I mean? So work has to have truth in it. You know what I mean? Like, there has to be truth in it. And that, you're not going to do that. You're not going to have that truth if you're in it for, like, the wrong reasons.
That's so true. So true. I like where you talk about that people sort of look at creativity as like this lightning strike of genius. And I was just this moment and this thing hit me. And you just talk about how that's not real. It's not the right way to look at it.
No. I mean, I would imagine for Young and Reckless, it's not like you had this full vision of exactly what it would be. No, it's like, first off, a lot of these things start really small. Oftentimes, almost each one of my books has started out as almost a totally different book. And it was only in the process of working on it and getting my ass kicked, looking at it from all these different angles. It's like, it's easy to have an idea, but then it's like when you try, there's this expression like, that dog won't hunt, you know? It's like that, man, that idea, it's not working. Like you could wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, I have the perfect idea for video. And then you go the next day, you're trying to work on it, and you're like, this is so lame. Like, I'm embarrassed that I'm even trying this, you know? And like, so it's the idea, that's one thing, but then it's the actually working on it and touching it and feeling it that you know, and so you have to be willing to do that. And it's not gonna, I say it like, I don't think I've had an epiphany in my whole life. Do you know what I mean? It's slower than that.
Well, and I've had just as many epiphanies that say you're whack as hell and everything you do sucks as I have, probably double than I have that said, oh, you're a genius, look at this idea. And the other thing, too, that you cover in the book that I know a little bit because we know each other, but is just the amount of, like, campaigns and stuff that you've been involved in, right? So even just outside of, and obviously working in American Apparel for years, and outside of creating books, like, you've really created a lot of things that are probably looked at as flashes of genius. And so you really know, like, you know, that real process behind a billboard campaign that just blows people away, right? Everyone looks at that and thinks that must have been done by some marketing genius, you know?
Yes. Well, it's like, even like your first book, what's so great about doing your first thing is you're like, oh, it's just really a matter of putting one foot in front of the other for a long period of time. And then at the end, it comes out. So like it's like there's a saying that with writers, it's like, just do 2 crappy pages a day and eventually you'll have a book. And so I think that's the other thing is, like, if you're a perfectionist, it's really hard to do good work because work never comes out perfect. So you want to get familiar with, like, I had this idea and then I worked on it, and it turned out to be total shit. But then we accidentally discovered this other thing that made it good.
Yeah.
You know, and so you want to, the more you can do and the more people you can work with and the more experiments you can take, all of these are what's eventually going to get you to that so-called genius. Like writing is really making a lot of mediocre stuff and then editing it into really good stuff.
And I'm telling you, bro, that's, as you know, that is the same as entrepreneurship. That's the same as exercising. That's the same as being an athlete. That's why when I started this podcast, I started it with the goal of interviewing entrepreneurs. And then I realized that anyone who creates anything on their own has the same sort of belief system, right?
Yeah,
because it's all the same process. Writing a book is the same as starting a company.
We're all trying to make something out of nothing.
Yeah.
You know?
But everyone looks at the people who made it. Because one of my goals here, obviously, I don't know why I have this passion, but one of my goals is to inspire and teach people who want it so bad but don't have the tools or the education to make it happen.
Right.
And one of the things that blows me away and bums me out when I really dive into that is people look at successful people as these geniuses that came up with this idea. Everyone's an overnight success. Everyone got rich quick, and they're just different from you.
Yes.
And they do not see the amount of 2 shitty pages a day that went into making that person your hero.
That's totally right. And there's a quote I like from Marcus Aurelius where he's saying, it's like, if it's humanly possible, assume that you can do it. Yep. Right. And because it's like the other person that did it is a human. Yeah. Right. So it's like, I'm not saying like, oh, this, lion jumped this incredible amount, so I can do it. But it's like, if another human being did it, you can probably do it. That doesn't mean you will do it or it'll be easy. But like, if another human being did it, then it's at least in the realm of possibility for other humans to do it.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay. Moving along because we're running low on time. But part 2 is positioning. Which I love. The biggest thing that you just got right out the gate and said that I am a big fan of is you're the CEO of your own shit. Yes. Right? So it doesn't matter if you're trying to break this down into company structure, into blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, and you cover this a lot in the book, so I'll just say it now, is like you really talk about the responsibility for your own idea.
Yes.
Meaning you're the CEO of it, you're the CMO of it, right? You're in charge of marketing it. And a lot of people have this misconception that you can kind of come up with a really good idea and then all of a sudden these people come out of thin air to make it all happen.
Yeah, like I'm going to be the idea guy and then someone's going to discover me.
Yeah,
right?
The discover me thing is so stupid.
Yeah, like James Altucher is a friend of mine. He's this great writer. He talks about, he's like, you got to choose yourself. Yep. Like you think that like this agent or this publisher or this producer or whatever, this investor is going to be like, I love what you're doing. Let me come, like my crack squad's going to come in and just take it all over. It's like those people don't exist, man. It doesn't exist.
It's just all been so romanticized that people think they're going to be singing in the shower one day and they're going to get a knock at their front door from Warner Brothers that wants to sign them to a deal.
And you actually don't even like it's not until you really study those industries. Like I worked on a book with Robert Greene about 50 Cent, and it was like 50 Cent got discovered by a record label. So he got discovered, and then that record label dropped him. Yeah. So it's like the people who are supposed to know better than anyone knew and then were wrong. Yeah. And then he had to reinvent his whole career. Yeah. And so it's like, it's like my most frustrating conversations as an author come with my editor and with my agent and with my publisher who think they know. And it's like, they know generally, but only you know like what this is supposed to be. So it's like, we could have a discussion right now about what the title of my next book should be, and I'll take your opinion. Yeah. But I can't express what I'm trying to do until it's done.
And you still get pushback from your publisher after all of these books that you've written.
I mean, you always do. Just like you're always going to be second guessed by retailers or by even your customers sometimes are going to think they know more than you. And like, this is me. So you have to have, that's where confidence really comes in, right? Yep. Like if you can be this like leaf just like blown in the wind, like someone's like, oh, like why is there I think just call it young or just, like people give you the dumbest fucking advice in the world. Yeah. And if you don't know what you stand for and what's important and what you're really trying to do, the real problem is you'll not get there, right?
You'll never do anything.
But I think the flip side, so it's not about being an arrogant, like an asshole, like I'm a genius, only you know. Yep. It's like, so if I'm trying to do X and then someone over here is telling me, hey, you haven't accomplished X. Yep. I need to be able to listen to them and take their advice. So like,
that's a tricky dance.
That's the
because that's
hardest
not someone
part.
hating, but people will hate. right?
Yes.
And so it's like, how do you decipher, like, you just have to know how to decipher or learn how to decipher the difference between hating and sticking to your idea and constructive criticism and taking it into consideration.
And this is where the clarity, though, of what you're trying to accomplish matters and why you have to think about it so much.
And let's jump right into that because that was going to be my next thing. You write it out. You write about clarity and goals.
Yes.
And you write, this is a blank that does blank for blank because blank.
Yeah, it's like, I think you need to be able to express your idea in one sentence. Like, this is something, like, this is a book for entrepreneurs who live in Texas who are trying to open coffee shops, right? So you want it in a sentence, and then I think you want it in a paragraph, and then you also, can you describe it in a whole page, right? Like, can you describe it in these different lengths from these different angles? So that way, when I come to you and I go, but Drama, what about people who are opening convenience stores? Wouldn't it be helpful to help them, with this? And you could be like, that's really helpful advice, but I'm not writing for convenience store owners. I'm writing for coffee shop owners.
Yeah.
And so I don't need to take your advice. But if you said, you're missing this whole part about the experience of opening a coffee shop, then I'd be like, oh, that's a hole that I have to fill. So
Just that clarity.
Yeah, there's
some people also want everything.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
they want to be everything for everyone, and they're nothing for nobody.
Exactly. And it's like, if you're creating a shoe brand and you know that the market for a skateboard shoe brand is X, and here are the retailers that sell them, you can guess what your market cap will be for that brand.
Yeah.
You can't go and think that, well, even though the facts say this, I mean, I'm sure that Walmart would take it. Yeah. And I'm sure that these people would take it. And you literally,
have you ever seen Walmart carry a shoe like this? Do you know about how their system? So people are really arrogant, and they think that because I see this all the time. People think that this thing that they've thought about for like 5 seconds, that the experts in that industry couldn't have possibly thought of.
Everyone's a disruptor.
Yeah, so it's like, no, you have to really know this thing inside and out. And so it's like, if you're going to be a writer, you better be a reader. Don't start a fashion company if you don't live and breathe that. Like, I'll hear from people that go like, I'm doing this. What influencers should I reach out to? And it's like, if you don't already know those people's names off the top of your head, you don't know enough about your industry to possibly be making something in it.
And I think it's like, you write really well about just in general and all of those things, taking the responsibility. Like, stop thinking that the idea is just enough.
Yes.
Or that even
you
the
can
idea.
ask some other person and they can just give you the 1, 2,
the
3,
blueprint.
4.
Like, here's a 3-page printout, PDF that'll give you.
Yeah, right. I just need to buy this course and then I'll magically know. It's like, no.
Marketing. You part 3, you talk heavily about marketing. I think what really got me was not only, once again, it being your job. But really, really what got me was sort of, you almost say, it's almost like you give rules to the fact that there are no rules, if that makes any sense. And you kind of say, look, man, it doesn't matter if you know 5 people, if you know 5,000 people, if your idea is, you're going to do it through social media, you're going to do it through mainstream media. It is on you to let people know that this thing even exists. And another thing that I think that you break down really well is, once again, same sort of topic, is like, people just expect, well, this product is great.
Right.
But it's fucking great. How come people aren't just flocking to me?
The number one rule of marketing for me is assume nobody gives a shit, right? Like, assume that no one's heard of you, that no one is interested, and that it's incredible, because you'll work so much harder that way. Do you know what I mean? Like, assume you have to sell this person by person, and then you'll do the work.
And what hurts, sorry to cut you off, what hurts is, you do put in a lot. I'm sure you write a book for however long it takes you to write a book. It sucks. You're doing revisions. You're getting notes. Your soul is getting torn apart. And then you're saying that you have to start all over on a marketing plan after you're already finished. No. So that is it. What I say is, it's like, you finish a marathon, and then instead of giving you a medal, they just lead you over to another marathon, and they're like, go. And you're like, but I'm tired. And it's like, of course. But if that's what separates the winners from the losers, right? Like, the people who stop there
are the ones who are rarely successful, and the people who are willing to do whatever it takes after, those are the people that we remember. And I want you to see marketing as its own form of art. Do you know what I mean? Like this podcast is in some ways marketing for your company and for your brand, but you're also really enjoying it, and it's an experience, and you get some of the best things I've ever done have been marketing stunts, you know?
Yeah.
And so thinking about that as part of your job, and then also realizing too, in the sense that there's no rules when it comes to marketing, it's like, if it puts asses in seats, if it gets people to find out about stuff, then it's marketing.
That's what I love.
Yeah.
It's like, stop thinking, like, I know a lot of people that maybe aren't in college time yet, or aren't, and I feel worse for the people who are going to college currently for a marketing degree. Because what I'm saying is, everyone thinks that marketing is something that you can, once again, learn like in a college course. Well, I didn't go to college for that. All of the best marketers that I know did not go to college for marketing.
Of course not.
It's not, you can't teach it. Like,
no. You got to live and breathe your space, and you got to be willing to be creative and take risks, and you got to do cool stuff that gets people to check out your things. Look, Nike started by him selling the shoes out of the trunk of his car at track meets. So he tried to sell it at stores, and no stores wanted it. So then he went to where the customers were, and he sold them out. He sold at track meets, and he was like, "Look, these shoes are better." And slowly, customer by customer, he built a multi-billion-dollar company, right? And you got to realize that it's not, oh, I'm going to put out this press release, or I'm going to make these couple T-shirts, and then everyone's going to be using my app. It's like.
And you have to do all that too. It's like, you got to do that, and you got to come up with the idea, and you got to, like, something creative and original. But I just love how you break it down of like, look, man, it's not a course. Once again, it's not a PDF you can download. If you're getting people to buy a product or to sit in a seat, it's marketing.
Yeah, I mean, look, one of the single best marketing things you can do is get people to try your shit for free. The thing that makes something successful is that people are using it and liking it. But people, I think about it this is what I mean about starting from nothing. It's like, so I wrote this book, and you don't know what's in it, and I'm asking you to pay me $30 to see if it's good or not.
And spend like a week if I'm reading quickly.
That's fucking crazy. Like, how entitled is that, right? So I give tons of my stuff away for free, and I sell a tiny portion of it. Do you know what I mean? And so by going I have to earn these people's interest by being exciting and interesting and showing them that, hey, this is a good investment for them. That makes me, by being humble, you ultimately sell better and sell more.
Yes, and that will lead me perfectly into part 4, which is platform. And part 4 may be, for me, I think the other parts, you put the way that I generally sort of feel about these things into really, really good words. And I am going to read it over and over. I wish I could read it every morning.
That's very cool, man.
You really did, because it's like, I kind of have these feelings about things, but when you write it and say, here is what it is and why, it's like, fuck, like it clicks. And so anyway, this part though is something that I will say I didn't take it as seriously, or even to be a part of the 4-part thing, right? Which is also crazy, because one of the greatest gifts that I have and opportunities that I have is a platform.
Yeah, because you were on a show and people were fans of you, and then you were able to launch what you did to them.
And my goal was, I always looked at it this way. I want to take the attention that I'm getting from being on TV, and I want to sort of funnel them, even though I know I'll only get maybe 10%. I want to funnel that 10% that's really engaged into and say, hey, look at my clothing line instead. Like, I tricked you. But I never thought about it the way that you wrote it. So I guess...
So I can answer this. So platform is like, who are your people, man? Like, when you're like, these are my people, who are those people? And how do you have access to them? I see this all the time. People will make a movie or a book or a project, and they'll sell millions of copies. And then the next one, they're starting from zero. Not starting from zero mentally, like they're hungry, but it's like, other than the money, it's like that first thing never happened.
They're just remarketing to it.
Yeah, how many people are way more famous than you? Right? That don't have a fraction of the Instagram followers that you have, or the social media followers that you have, or that would show up to a meetup that you're doing. And so investing in your people, I knew I wanted to be a writer, so I started an email list where I recommended books every month for 6 or 7 years.
I want to cover how fucking important that is. Because what you did is, you built a platform before you had a product.
Yes.
So you went part 4, then part 1.
Sure. Yeah.
It's insane. And I just think that is something that is so valuable to young people, is if you don't have a product yet or an exact idea yet, what do you plan to do, and how can you give people value first?
And it doesn't have to be huge, right?
Yeah. Finish saying what you did.
I started this email list where I just recommended books from other people to these fans. And it started with 50 readers. And by the time my first book came out, it was probably like 5,000. And by the time my second book came out, it was 10,000. Mm-hmm. Now it's like 80 or 90,000. And every couple years, I tell those people, hey, I have a book.
Yeah.
And they're like, all right, I'll check it out.
But in between, you're still recommending other books.
Yeah. And so it's like we have a relationship about this shared love of books. So it's like if you want to be a musician, why don't you just become a guy that is known for recommending other great music? Because not only are you going to learn a lot about your craft, but you're going to meet the right people. Like, you know who's interested in finding great music? People in the music industry.
Yeah.
You know, and then you're going to have contacts. Like, I had editors and agents on my list.
Yep.
And so when I had a book idea, that was partly how I launched it. And then it's like, I always go like, who's buying the first copies of this thing? Right? Like if you launch, like, so this is why platforms matter. It's like you have this crazy idea for this new thing that you don't know is going to work. Well, you can't, if you tell no one about it, how are you going to know if it's going to work or not?
Yep.
So like, who are the people that you're launching to?
Yep.
There's a great essay everyone should read by Kevin Kelly called 1,000 True Fans. And he's basically saying if you have 1,000 people who will buy anything and everything you make, you can make a living as a creative person. Like you want more than that. We all do. But 1,000 is like, you can make a living that way.
Yeah.
And so start there.
It's big. And I think that the whole book really opened my eyes, but that final part really, it made me feel like a bit of an asshole. It made me feel a little bit selfish. And I think that that's what's wrong. Also, I don't want to sound like I'm just diagnosing the world.
Yeah.
This thing opened my eyes.
Yeah.
But my point is, it made me feel like, well, shit, you know what a lot of us do is we think about an idea that we think is the best idea ever.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone's kid is the prettiest.
I'm a natural singer. I'm a brilliant
gift to earth.
Yeah.
This is the best idea ever. How could anyone shoot me down?
Right.
Now I made the product. This product is amazing.
Yeah.
And then if you somehow get past not only thinking that people should be flocking to your work and actually go try to market it, your marketing is the best, right? And so now your product's not taking off. Now you're starting to get bitter, right? Because you're like, oh, fuck the world. The world hates me.
Right.
You know, and if I send an Instagram tomorrow that says, buy this new shirt, the question is, what did I give them for the last week?
Sure.
I'm asking them to do something for me.
Yeah.
And I just think it really opened my eyes to that in this. And you were recommending books. You were adding value for so long before you were saying, hey, do you mind checking out my book?
That's true. But also it was, I think, I appreciate you saying that, but also like I learned so much doing that that it's like it's not selfless. It was also really selfish.
Yeah.
Because like think about it, every month I was reading all these great books and I was seeing what people liked and I was learning what my audience liked. And so it's like if you're off in your ivory tower, you're locked in your apartment, you're not interacting with the people who are going to buy your shit. And you want to have as direct a relationship with them as possible. And one last thing about platform that's really important. Just a minute. The last thing about platform that you should remember is that what if all of a sudden no one wants to talk? Like, what if you get like banished, right? Like, what if you said something dumb or like you're a grunge musician and then rap comes along and no one wants to talk about, like, if you don't have access to your people, then you're shut out. You know, I think about a band like Iron Maiden. They haven't been on the radio in like 40 years, but they sell out stadiums all over the world because like they know who their people are and they have their contact information and they're tight, you know? And so it's like, if all of a sudden, if like I know you sell a lot of stuff through like PacSun and Zoomies and shops like that. What if they went out of business tomorrow?
Yeah.
And if you don't have your platform, if you don't have a way to sell direct, which by the way, the margins are way better on, then you're fucked.
Yeah.
And like, so like, what if Donald Trump tomorrow said like, Ryan Holiday is not allowed to publish books anymore?
Yeah.
I'd be like, all right, try to stop me, you know, because like I can talk to my people.
Yeah.
And that's really, really important and cannot be taken for granted.
It's so important. I think that's what the podcast is to me, right? I like talking to people like you. And had I never started this podcast, I would have wanted to connect with you anyway. But what happened is by creating a podcast and deciding to share these conversations and give that same value to everyone else, it forced me to drive to San Diego to talk. I wouldn't have done that.
Right.
So now I just gained so much knowledge and inspiration. I feel all gassed up on the drive home, and at the same time, everyone gets to share it. And I think
you get out what you put in, man.
Yeah.
And so put in a lot. Like put in more than just your own stuff. Contribute to the community that you're in. Build it. Like a rising tide floats all boats. You know what I mean? And that's the other thing, is that you're not competing with these other people.
Yep.
Like how I've connected you with a bunch of authors that I like, that I've never even worked with, that I just want you to know, because like, look, if more people are reading, they might, 1% of them might read my books.
Yeah.
So the more you do, the better it is. And that's what networking is, by the way. Networking is not going to parties and giving out your business card. Yeah. It's providing value for people. And your network is a platform too.
Yeah. Last thing, we'll wrap it up, because this is the conclusion of the book. You end it, which I really like, with sort of, there's still an element of luck.
There's always luck, man.
Still only time will tell.
You know, we're so lucky, and it's like, look, hard work will get you close.
Yep.
And luck is what's going to take you to that stratospheric level. Yeah. So if you're not there yet, don't feel bad. Just know that one day your thing will come in. Or if it won't, at least be proud and happy with the work that you're putting in, because that's the one thing you control.
Done. Thank you, Ryan.
Dude.
Amazing,
really cool.
Man. All right, we're out of here. Guys, thank you. That was quick, but damn it, we covered a lot of ground.
We did.
Go check out the book, Perennial Seller. Is there where else should I, like, how do people sign up for your email list? Or
RyanHoliday.net. And then I do another email every day at dailystoic.com, which I think they would like.
Done. Thank you, guys.
Peace. Sweet.
Thank you, brother.
Look.